Welcome to Wine Soundtrack USA. Listen to the passion with which producers narrate their winery and their world. In 30 answers, discover their stories, personalities, and passions.
Hello, friends and listeners of Wine Soundtrack. This is Allison Levine, and today I'm sitting with Alice Warnecke Sutro of Sutro Wine Company. We're here in Sonoma County in the Alexander Valley. And Alice, if you can tell us about Sutro, that would be great.
Thanks, Allison. Sutro is a wine company that I founded myself in 2012. I buy fruit from Warnecke Ranch and Vineyard, which is my family's vineyard. Since 1973, they've been farming grapes, but I'm the first in the family to make wine, and it's Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Sauvignon Blanc.
Wow, so your family's been farming a long time. You grew up in that, obviously. You work exclusively with the estate fruit?
That's right. This is a very focused project. I really want to dig very, very deep into being connected to Warnecke Ranch and the land. It's what makes my heart sing and where I want to be forever. And so the digger I deep, the more there is to the digger I deep, the deeper I dig, the more there is to know. And so I don't feel constrained at all. And I just have a few varietals to work with. And it's actually more yet to come because we grow some Pinot Noir that I've never made wine from. And I'm getting better at a Saignée rosé from the Cabernet Sauvignon. And so there's just still a lot to explore with just one estate, 80-acre vineyard.
Wow. And what's your total case production?
I've moved from 300 cases where I started up to 1,200 cases.
Wow, that's growth.
It is, and it's split evenly now with my three kind of flagship Bordeaux varietals, so the Cab, the Merlot, and the Sauv Blanc, about 400 cases each, and then the Rosé is a smaller run.
Oh, fantastic. And where are your wines available? Are they direct to consumer only?
So I have a wine club and I have a website, sutrowine.com, but I also am in distribution and with Monsieur Touton, who imports a lot of European wines on the East Coast. He's in 13 states, and that's really exciting for me. That started last year, and it will give me the opportunity to actually have a pull-through and demand and a chance to kind of grow a few of my SKUs. I'm excited to be in distribution. I know a lot of small wineries aren't, but for me it is a long-term goal with the brand. And then in Chicago and Southern California.
Oh, for such a small brand, you've got quite a reach.
It's very small amounts in fairly focused retail restaurant venues.
I love it. So your family has owned vineyards for a long time, since the 70s. You grew up in this. What is your first memory relevant to wine?
Well, it's a bit of an assumption. I actually did not grow up in this because my parents are divorced, and this is my dad's side of the family. I grew up with my mom mostly, and we lived in Europe for a long time, from 1995 to 2006, and that is where I first learned about wine. And Beaujolais Nouveau was my favorite, and we lived near there, and it was, as a teenager, easy to drink. And then we also at home, drank Côte de Nuit, and so the lighter reds were kind of my entree into wine.
Not too shabby. So when you look back at the wines you've drunk and all the great wines you've been introduced to, is there one particular wine that stands out as a really memorable kind of aha moment in setting you on your path or a focus?
Well, let's see. What I love now is Cabernet Sauvignon from Alexander Valley. And I do admire colleagues who make wine in this region. So it's not really a wine in the past that drew me to focus on what I produce now. It's really just what I drink every day and getting to know the terroir better. And so I don't want to say one in particular, but let's see. Hawks is a great example of Cabernet Sauvignon from Alexander Valley that I really appreciate. And they are true to the terroir with, really good herbaceous notes that verge sometimes on menthol and bit of spiciness and show kind of deep plum and, very expressive berry aromas.
Ooh, that sounds delicious. So an influential wine, and yet at the same time something that's very present day. So tomorrow you might have another one.
Yeah, that's right. And I think I like to live, well, maybe it's because I have a bad memory. I like to live in the now and, be spurred on by the people that I work with currently, that I can actually, talk to often and get to know their processes and their grape growing and their sites. I go visit those vineyards.
And so if we were to come into your home, into your private cellar or, in your closet, wherever, however many bottles, what would we find in there? Is it mostly local friendly winemakers, or do you have a little international flair there?
Great question, because I love my wine cellar.
Oh.
And I have a very modest home. It's, 1,100 square feet, and it's from the 1940s. And it has a root cellar. It has a, bare dirt cellar, and I have to lift a hatch to get into it from the kitchen floor. And there's steep stairs, and so we store our wine down there. So it's kind of, I don't see it often. I go down and I'll pull out old bottles and then close the hatch and kind of forget about it. Recently I pulled out a 2013 Handley Pinot Noir from Anderson Valley, which was really beautiful. And then I found a 5-year-old Chapelet Chardonnay, which was amazing also. So it's definitely local and California, to the detriment of my broader wine knowledge. But to fix that, I recently studied and passed the WSET Level 2 exam. And that was purposefully to force myself to really get to know other international wine growing regions.
Huh. But that's so cool that you have like a cellar underneath.
Yeah.
So do you think there's a such thing as a perfect variety?
Yeah.
And which one is it?
I'm going to beat this drum for sure. Cabernet Sauvignon, and that's pretty classic to say. It is the king of wine, and it is a noble varietal. But there's grounding, there's basis for that. And Cabernet Sauvignon has the potential for the most aromatic expression, just by scientific analysis.
Yeah.
It has enough phenols and molecules to pack like a 5-course meal into a glass. And I really admire that. I also like, bitterness, and I like tannins, and I love structure. I like to chew my wine when I drink it almost. So yeah, definitely Cabernet Sauvignon.
And what is your opinion on wine critics and scores?
I love them. Yes, I'm sorry.
Good.
There might be...
that's great.
Every time I say that, I'm sure there's 6 dozen who are going to say the exact opposite. But I just the other day had a great conversation with Doug Wilder, who publishes, he's a wine critic and rates wines, and his publication is Purely Domestic Wine Report, and it's mostly California and Washington. And what I like about having other people, professionals, rate my wines is, number one, they've been drinking wine longer than I have. I'm 37, and I like to give my wine to someone's palate who's been down many more roads than I have in terms of wine drinking. And I like to do it year over year. And it gives me a way it allows me to see my wines through other people's eyes. And I don't mind, and I like that. I like to self-learn in that way. And also, I don't think at the scale that I'm at, scores aren't selling my wine. It's really for myself and my progress. But I do, since I'm in distribution, when I get over 90, I definitely tell everybody, any wine writer who gives me a score over 90, I do put it to use immediately for sales.
Yeah, it's a useful tool, and especially when you're a small winery. But I love that you use it as more of a a reflection. I think that's a really fascinating way to look at it.
Yeah.
So, quick answer, red, white, or rosé?
Oh, red.
Still or sparkling?
Still.
And if you're drinking a lot of red wine, how do you approach food and wine pairing? Do you think there are rules to follow, or is it sort of like, I'll drink Cabernet with everything? As you said, it's a 5-course meal in one.
Oh, no, I do not ever drink Cabernet with like tomato sauce.
Right.
I think it's very bad. So we agree.
I agree.
Okay. Except I did work with Matteo's restaurant in Healdsburg, and he is it's Central American food. It's called Cucina Latina. So he had created a sauce that was absolutely delicious, and then he told me it's a tomato sauce. But because it's reduced many times and it has bell peppers, all these different kinds of peppers in it that are roasted first and then processed, and that was really, because it ended up just being really earthy, and a lot of the acidity had left.
So it worked with the Cabernet.
It worked really, really well. It's so good. So anyway, wine and food pairing, my approach, I'm a meat eater, and so and I love Cab. So obviously, a lot of different meats, and the gamier and the more complex meat, umami flavor, the better. So I do eat wild game too, or lamb, and then rubbed with dried herbs brings out the herbal elements in the Cab. Anyway, I love food pairing with wine, and that is the deliciousness of kind of getting in that trap of having a wine that's acidic and makes your mouth water, and then you just really want that bite that comes next. But that bite changes your mouthfeel, and then you want the thing that was just in there. You just get into a cycle, and it's very addictive.
So is there a rule you look for in how you decide what to pair?
Thanks. We're bringing it back. Okay. Just like a total philosophical tangent.
No, I'm listening. I'm going, I take a bite, I think this, it changes, and I'm like, oh yeah, what are we talking about?
Yeah. So thanks. Back to earth. Do I have a rule?
Or an approach?
Let's see. My rule is definitely forgiveness. So if it doesn't work, I open a different bottle. And I also... which means that I'm the kind of person who doesn't mind having a bunch of bottles open for a while on my counter. And I like to drink wine that way too. I like to witness them over a few days and aging and oxidizing a little bit. So that's my only rule.
Yeah, just testing.
Yeah.
Testing and trying and opening a new bottle.
Yeah.
There are worse things to do.
Yeah.
So for somebody who hasn't had the pleasure to try the wines of Sutro, what do you think they're missing out on?
Okay, so as I said already, I love the land, and terroir is something really important to me. We grow grapes on volcanic soil, so we are a volcanic terroir. And I ask myself this question often for marketing, or what are the hallmark attributes of the wine that go beyond vintage variability and that are really more due to that, to terroir rather than the seasonal weather patterns. So the conclusion I've come to is that with across the board, across my 3 varietals, the hallmark attributes are good acidity and also complexity, and also a very... let's see, won't apply to the whites, but basically the tannins are elegant. And that's a structural component that's important. So those 3 things, acidity, complexity, and elegance with the tannins, you can track each of those back to what is the cause. And it is, it's diurnal rhythms with cold nights, or it's geography, which includes soil composition, but also altitude and slopes and aspect. And then there's also the general length of the growing season, and that's where you get elegance and tannins, which is hang time, really, and then having the fruit be able to mature well through all those phenolics just have time to come out before you get sugars that are beyond winemaking capacity.
So you're really just able to taste. I mean, to taste these wines, it sounds like from what you're saying, you're really getting to get an expression of a vineyard.
Yeah.
And Your wines sound so balanced that I'm excited to try them.
Thank you. Yes, obviously, vineyard and terroir driven, and people will be able to tell when they listen to this that I'm very much more of an agriculturalist as in my approach to winemaking, and that is my background. And I do help my family grow the grapes, and that's what leads me in my wine.
Well, speaking of which, spending time in the vineyard and working with one specific vineyard, how much variation do you see from vintage to vintage? Do you see it's a nuance? Do you see big differences? Do you see things repeating themselves or more common trends?
So vintage variability definitely comes into play with our wines. And what I see mostly is, for me, it's about discerning what type of ripeness. And that is mostly about on the aroma wheel, are you in like the, unripe red fruit zone, or did the fruit have time and the right temperature patterns to get into like baked plum? And that applies to the berry category of cab, but it also applies to the herbal category and the, earth category too. So that's already 3 levels that get dialed in a variety of directions.
All based on what the vintage is doing.
Yes, and they still are, so that's the variability part. And then what I said previously, about more of the structural elements, I find stay true unless it's a very dramatic season departure from our usual temperatures.
Yeah, and it's one of those weird things that in California you would normally say we're pretty consistent, but our last few years have not been consistent. They've been consistently inconsistent.
That's right, and not enough though to really throw the wines into a realm really be unrecognizable. So yeah.
That's good. Are there any signs or omens you capture that's going to tell you what a vintage is going to be like?
Oh, I think, yes, just the weather and the rainfall. Every, week that we progress through the growing season, I can start honing in on if the wines will be more or less comparable to previous years. Again, I've only made wine since 2012. So hands-on experience, I only have that many vintages to compare back to, but I do, that's enough to understand, partway through spring, I can narrow it down. Okay, well, it's definitely not going to be
this way.
that vintage, we're getting more towards these 4 or 5. Yeah.
Huh. If space aliens were to land on your family vineyard, which of your wines would you want to welcome them with?
I don't welcome space aliens.
They're friendly.
They're friendly. They're super friendly. Okay.
Super friendly.
And they like wine.
Clearly.
Yeah. And they agree to drink it with food, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They prioritize.
However you tell them.
All right. Now, actually, I think today, I would welcome them with my Sauvignon Blanc from 2020. It's hot today. And it's a wine that I'm so proud of. It is really delicious. And I've actually been playing with it. I've been drinking it and reading reviews and really listening to the other people who drink it. There's an herbal element. There's a grassiness to Sauvignon Blanc. And I've been trying to pinpoint exactly what it is. And I've had 3 words come up that I like.
Okay.
And tarragon, sea kelp, or alfalfa.
Ooh.
So I would ask them maybe what green, I don't know what word you use for space alien.
Kind of like an herb.
Yeah,
herbal.
but maybe they don't have herbs. But anyway,
That's right, we're supposed to use vocabularies that are common.
That's right. So I would maybe ask them, what grows on your planet that this green part, makes you think of.
Interesting. I'm intrigued to try it. So when you were little, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be an artist, and I am an artist.
Are you? What kind of art do you do?
I do portraits. I do line drawings of people.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. I have a large scale outdoor installation in Healdsburg right now. So I was commissioned to cover the facade of a building I was asked to do whatever I wanted, so I decided to draw the people who are walking by. And it's a 3-story building, and it's all glass. And I got a scissor lift, and I did 36 portraits of people. And it's on view right now in Healdsburg.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. That's so cool.
Thank you.
How did you end up how did you decide to make wine then after, coming from art?
That really was what they say, with the lightning strikes. And I was 25, and I'd finished my graduate degree, Master of Fine Arts, and my grandfather died, and I realized, the lightning bolt hit, that I have this incredible opportunity, and with a 80-acre vineyard and a family business. Also, I, at that time, had been living away from Warnecke Ranch for a while, and it did not suit me. So I wanted to certainly move back to the ranch. And with the passing of my grandfather, I realized this is the time. There's an opening, and it's the time to get involved. So that led to making wine, because once you grow grapes, and I really wanted to close that loop and have the product that tells the story.
A full circle.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So when you're not working, what do you do in your free time? Or it sounds like you're pretty busy between art and making wine. Do you have free time?
Yeah. I don't like to not work. But recently I went kayaking down the Russian River with my family and friends, and that was really lovely. So I like to do sports. I play tennis also. And hanging out with my kids. I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old.
Oh.
Yeah.
They keep you busy.
Because truthfully, my work is of great pleasure to me. And so I'm very lucky that way. I've worked hard to make sure I can do the things I like as employment, as a career. So every day I am having fun and enjoying, my activities, even though they are work. Yeah.
But if you enjoy it, it's not work.
No, it's a fine line. It's still stressful, but.
So when you look back at, at advice people have given you over the years, or when you're going to work every day, is there a piece of advice you were given at some point that you carry through with life?
My family always told me to keep making art, and that has helped me a lot. So I come from architects and musicians. So never having fully let go of that, and now I've succeeded in integrating it. And my aunt always told me, to everything, we are all stardust, which basically means that, you really do. It's important to live your life in an integrated way. I don't know, just be kind. Humility.
Those are all good life lessons. Yeah. Absolutely. And you come from a background of art and music. Is there a particular genre that you're a big fan of music?
This is not very, it's not very sophisticated.
That's okay.
But definitely punk rock. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, we're getting to know you here.
It's just how I grew up, and ska, and mosh pits, frankly, I love.
Really?
I had a long high school career of going to mosh pits. Yeah.
The things you learn about people. Yeah. So when you look back, you're young and have a long career ahead of you, but looking at your career, not family, what would you say is one of your proudest achievements to date?
Okay, I was thinking about my favorite band. Can you tell me that question again?
When you look back at your career,
yes.
What would you say is one of your proudest achievements to date? You've talked about a few things you've done already that sound pretty impressive, but I'm wondering is the art installation or is making the family wine that, or is there something else?
Well, I believe in just continuous, evolution and progress. I don't really like to say there's one thing and then it sounds like it's over. But so far, actually, this is a little more very personal. I think I'm very proud of having achieved being able to work for my family. And family dynamics are really complex. And so I'm very proud at being there every day and being involved and helping my family business growing grapes while pushing forward with the other things that I did want to succeed with in my life, having my own wine label and continuing to make art and having a family.
I think that's a really worthwhile achievement. It is not superficial in the least. So complete this sentence for me. A table without wine is like...
I'm going to steal this from a friend, but it's like a kiss without a mustache. It's not even true to me. It's not even true to me, but this is from a friend who was from Mexico City, and we were talking about tequila. She's like, a tequila without a lime is like a kiss without a mustache. No, but for me, a table without wine is, I don't know, breakfast. Yeah.
I've heard that before.
Okay, good.
You don't drink at breakfast? I've been
not
starting.
Wine. Not wine.
Somehow my days this week have been starting out with wine.
Okay, good for you. Yeah.
We're sitting at a table, we've got your wine in front of us. If you could have anyone from any walk of life, living or deceased, join you at this table to drink your wine, who would you want that to be?
Wow. Maybe some ancestors of mine that came to Sonoma County in the 1860s. And just to say, look where it's come. They were Dutch. And they tried to be farmers and ended up with mercantile stores. They were the ones who acquired Warnecke Ranch in 1911. I've never thought of that, so this is just spur of the moment. But I think that'd be very interesting. They'd probably have a Dutch accent. And I could say, look where this has all led to. Some delicious wine.
Well, they probably never envisioned it, so how wonderful to be able to share that with them. So... I wanted to just play a little game here of music and wine. You have a music background. If it's all going to be ska and punk rock, that'll be awesome. I just won't know any of these bands necessarily. But based on the wines you make, since wine conjures emotion and music does too, if you can kind of pair your wines with music. So the Sauvignon Blanc that you're really proud of.
Okay, so that I think is more... I don't like to call wines feminine or masculine, but I think the Sauvignon Blanc needs a female singer.
Okay.
And would this be appropriate? Okay, I'm going to say Miley Cyrus, but not her, but her backyard sessions when she she sings Lilac Wine, and it's acoustic, or she has some accompaniment, but she's on the guitar and she has amazing voice, so I picked that song.
I like that. Okay, and your Merlot?
The Merlot, I would say we listened to this while we were floating down the river because I brought a speaker. I would say the band Noir Désir, and a lot of their songs are more, punk, but they have a lyrical song that's Le Vent Nous Emportera. And I think that's the name of the song. It's definitely the main lyric that repeats. And it's it's just more smoothing and engulfing, and very, you get enraptured a bit. I think the Merlot does that.
You're really good at this. You're creating an image in my head too. And what about this bottle I have sitting in front of me, the Cabernet Sauvignon?
Right, so the Cabernet Sauvignon, it has grit, it has powerful but elegant tannins. I have to talk while I'm thinking.
Of course. But it gives a good descriptor too.
Right, okay. And so I do think actually, mosh pit appropriate, something where there's a heavy and loud beat and some crunching guitar and I might just have to go with, I don't want to say, now this is bad. You're not going to be able to help me here. But,
no, I'm not.
Okay, can we come back to this? I will remember.
Take your pause a second.
Oh, because you'll just edit it out? Can I look it up?
Yeah.
I'm going to look it up. Oh, Weezer. I remember. Weezer. I'm going to go with Weezer.
You wanted to cheat, but hey.
Yeah, I remembered. Yeah. Something from their Blue cover album.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I can't pick a song, but...
That's okay.
Yeah.
We get the genre. We get this. We get the sound. Yeah, that's perfect. So, Alice, tell me something. With the world of wine that's out there, what wine region is at the top of your bucket list to go explore?
Let's see. I love where I live so much. I haven't really thought about traveling much recently, even with the lockdown, coming out of the lockdown. Maybe northern Italy. Yeah.
And if people want to come
for Sauvignon Blanc, Alto Adige. Because truthfully, I want to make my secret goal is to make a Sauvignon Blanc that ages well, which is not the usual way you drink Sauvignon Blanc, but it's very possible and it's very delicious. And I have an uncle who drinks a lot of European wines, and he shared some aged northern Italian Sauvignon Blanc recently that I really liked.
Ooh.
I want to go see that. It's not the Apennines, that's down the middle. It's just the Alps.
Up like Sutro and area. Yeah. So if somebody wants to come taste Sutro wines, how can they do that? How can they find you here in Sonoma, or online and in person?
Yes. I've created a small but mighty reputation for my tasting experience, which is a hike. And I basically make people sweat a lot before they get to drink the wine, and it's a 35-minute walk around the vineyards and are up to some elevation to look at the Russian River and views of the Mayacamas, the Mayacamas and Mount St. Helena. And then we go and taste at at the facility where I make the wines. Yeah.
Wow.
So you can book that with me, and in summertime when it's hot, I only do it in the morning. So then there's morning drinking happening.
Well, see, that's when breakfast.
It'd be a late breakfast, but it's a 10 a.m. tour. Yeah, and I do it personally, and I just love to talk about what's happening in the terms of vineyard management and the growing season and how it really relates. I like people to see where the wine comes from and then go drink it.
That's great. So if you're planning a trip up to Sonoma, if you want a really special experience, you want to be with the winemaker, not just meet the winemaker, be with the winemaker, hike through the vineyards, really learn and then taste wines, you've got to check out Sutro Wine Co. Try the Sutro wines, but they can also order them online if they want, right? And they go to...
Yes, thank you. It's sutrowine.com.
Perfect. Well, Alice, thank you for joining us on Wine Soundtrack, and I hope you had fun.
Really, really fun. Thank you so much. Really made my brain work there. That's good. Yeah.
Thanks for listening to a new episode of Wine Soundtrack USA. For details and updates, visit our website, winesoundtrack.com.